Bleach Revisited. I am Karker Gold, your host of this series in which we will be reading every single chapter of the Bleach manga, providing critical analysis of the art and the narrative, as well as personal response to those chapters. I'll also be discussing how the chapter connects to the rest of the series, such as through foreshadowing and various other spoilers. As usual, we begin these videos with a reading of the chapter that we are discussing for the day. This is Chapter 84, The Shooting Star Project 2, Tattoo on the Sky. Huh? Hey, we're gonna use this to make a cannonball for us to fly in, right? We all practiced like crazy so we could do it. You're the only one who practiced like crazy. Can you make one, Mr. Yorichi? Silly question. Here, put it down right here. Satisfied? For me, it's as easy as breathing. You're upset? Is it because I can easily do something that was difficult for you? I heard you were reading something downstairs. Did you master it? Sort of. Then we'll use the flower crane cannon launch method 2. Can you do it? Yes. Get your butts in here. Let's go. The sun will be up soon. That's our cue to begin the launch ceremony. Bleach, Chapter 84, The Shooting Star Project 2, Tattoo on the Sky. Listen. Stay close together once we're inside Seirei. If you meet anyone of the captain class, flee immediately. Our objective is to rescue Rukia, and only that. Do not take any unnecessary risk. Far away, copper-colored greed desires the domination of 36 degrees. It's starting. Combine your spiritual energies. 72 pairs of legends, 13 pairs of horn. The right hand of the monkey grabs the star. Embraced by the 25 wheels of the sun, the cradle of sand bleeds. Flower crane cannon launch method 2. Kagizaki! Bound Blossom. You did it, Lady Kaku. It's a success. Be careful in there, Ganju. Whoa! Hey, I expected a bigger jolt. Idiot! It's coming. Huh? Ah! Oh! What are you doing? Part 2! The Flower Crane Cannon Launch Method 2 is a 2-part incantation. Part 1 launches and controls the direction, but acceleration and trajectory controlled by Part 2. This method allows precision guidance. Now, if you want to land in one piece, don't bother me. Alright. Now then, everybody listen up. In order for us to land safely inside the Seirei, we have to adjust this cannonball's trajectory. And to do that, we have to even out the discharge of our spirit energy. Now I'm starting the ceremony. We won't be able to monitor the discharge of your spirit energies. Okay. I want all of you to adjust your levels of spirit energy to mine. You should be able to fill everyone's level of spirit energy by keeping your hands on this. Just adjust accordingly. If we mess this up, we're finished. So concentrate. Okay. Right. Flower Crane Cannon. Launch Method 2. Part 2. The fate of the 3 sparrows. The fate of the 4 dragons. Enclosed on 5 sides. Unable to return. 6-3. Wind of Heaven, Orangutan. Spoon, Elm, Cane. Ichigo, that's too much. It is. Sorry. Ichigo, lower it a little more. I'm trying. I've already lowered it a lot. Ichigo. Yeah, I know. 1,000 ashes and 1,000 truths. The plan of the white clouds. Hey, Ichigo. Dude, I know. I'm lowering it. Just give me a second. Close to the moon. Not stepping on the shadow of the scarlet. 1,000 ashes, 1,000 truths. You idiot! I read the same line twice because of you. That's my fault. I lost my concentration because you were yelling so much. Ganju, Ichigo, stop it. There's no time. She's right. Stop it. Hey, take a look there. It's the Seirei. Ah, we searched all night, but there's no one here. Hey, you can go. That's too bad. Huh? What's that sound? What? What's that? It's coming down. Momo, move everybody back. Yes, sir. It's coming right at us. Run. We're gonna crash. We have no choice. Infuse it with all the spirit energy you've got. Harden the cannonball as much as possible. Now! Messenger of Justice from outer space, Don Kanoji appears. The girl cannot hide her amazement from the superhero who has appeared before her eyes. Oh, it's you. If you're looking for Ichigo, he's not here. What are you doing wandering around here? I thought you were a big star. That is it for Chapter 84 of the Bleach manga. Ooh, Shooting Star Project Part 2, Tattoo on the Sky? Is that the whole title? Yeah, that's the whole title. It's one of the longer ones. Maybe the longest chapter title we've had so far. Possibly. We'll start to get these. We've gotten a few already, I think, but we get these chapter titles that'll have the, what is it? Extra text in them, like Tattoo on the Sky in parentheses, these appended suffixes. Suffixes? That's not even right. Anyway, this extra kind of subtitle to our title of the chapter is what I was looking for there. Anyway, let's get into talking about the art and the narrative of this one. Let's talk a little bit about what's going on here. I do like this first shot of Ichigo just because we can kind of see the stars in the background. It's a little cute. As we know, they launched this in the morning, right? Right at daybreak. And so it's kind of interesting because if you think about it, it was the previous night that the alarm went up. So, you wonder, and we do get that line from Zaraki Kenpachi, right? We get the line of, he'd been searching all night and he hadn't found anybody. So it seems as though the alarm that went off was not for our Ryoka invaders. Unless it was super preemptive, but it was an emergency alert, so it seems like something else triggered that alarm. But we get a little bit of that sense of the timeline as we go here. But I do just kind of like this first shot of Ichigo. He's got the spirit orb here, and yeah, I like this text doesn't quite work for me because I always kind of read the bubble here and then go to Uryu's text. But the idea is that Ichigo is supposed to be saying this, and then Uryu's kind of in the background, like, you're the only one who practiced, you ass. The rest of us didn't really need to. Which it seems weird that they bring up the part 2 part of the thing, and that they do it mid-air, especially since getting distracted could cause it to explode. But, Genju doesn't really seem like the kind of person who makes good plans. So maybe he just didn't want to have that be yet another thing for them to worry about. Who knows? But I do like that we get this little exchange. Yorichi looks uncharacteristically benign here. Usually Yorichi has a very serious, kind of cattish look. But here looks pretty innocent and almost sad. Same here. It's very cat-looking Yorichi. But like not as serious an anime character. It's the eyes, really. The expression there. But similarly, Ichigo kind of looks disarmingly youthful in a lot of these panels. I like the way that he looks at the beginning here, but he still seems a little bit more relaxed than we usually get. I do like the other characters kind of poking in here. We do get a good shot of Chad back here. This gag Chad cracks me up. Just, yeah. Of course, Yorichi demonstrating that he can do the perfect orb because it is as easy as breathing. If you needed confirmation that Yorichi is not just their guide, but a powerful master of magic or of reishi manipulation. Here you go. I mean, you probably suspected Yorichi had a little bit more going on because, come on, he's a talking cat. But this continues to kind of fuel that as Yorichi can form the perfect orb and kind of has a laugh at Ichigo because it's so easy for him. As we come over here, though, I do like that we hop back to the Shibas. They have this little back and forth. We get to learn about what Ganshu was studying over. It seemed like he was writing in the previous chapter, but I suppose he was reading. He was mumbling to himself, so it was the incantation, right? And I like that he had to have this really long incantation to read, that he hadn't memorized it, which maybe speaks towards this either being a newer technique or just something Ganshu hasn't memorized. I like that she punches this cannon and like a spiral door opens in it. That's kind of cool. Reminiscent of course, the Shiva spiral that we've gotten. So, it makes you wonder what came first. But I also, there's so much of a neat ritual here. So, like, she punches this hole into the cannon, and then she drags this huge brush around the base of it, right? And I love that she has to like sling it across her back like this, it's like she's got it in the mouth, that kind of to help get leverage on it. It's kind of neat. And then she just throws it across the room, and that's always been a moment that kind of stuck with me, even though it is just 3 panels here. Of course, we get this reminder, yeah, if you run into a captain, flee immediately. Which, as we know, we have a captain that's out for Ichigo already. And there's, a good number of them that are already kind of trying to intercept, right? So, probably not going to have to worry about the sick guy. Probably. But, there's at least 12 captains that it seems like they're trying to keep their eye out for what's going on here. The shot of Kukaku here is really ominous. Just the sunrise, this kind of tum 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 tum. I don't know if I should read that as like the alarm from the Seirete, though it doesn't seem like they've been hearing the alarm here, but they're far enough away maybe. So perhaps that's just to build up the momentum of this scene, right? And then we do get a very long chant. So if you remember, Ruki had a chant to create like the magic that she was doing, right? The Hado. And so this seems like it's in the same realm. Notably, she has to stab her sword into like the big circle that she made. That's what I assume that she's on right here. It's still unclear if this is a Zanpakuto or not. I mean, we know that. So here's the thing: it's like we know that their brother was a Soul Reaper, but assumably neither of them are. But does that preclude them from ever getting Zanpakuto? I don't know. Like I tend to kind of read it as that they're not, because they aren't explicitly confirmed as Zanpakuto. But they are just swords that these people have. Just like I read the axes that Chidambo had as just being axes he had, and not like a specialized Zanpakuto or anything. But let me know your takes on that. Regardless, it seems like part of the ritual is stabbing this sword into the ground, and we can see it start to crumble from there. And she starts this incantation, and I'll try to make some sense of it. So she starts with far away, right? Like this, the whole idea is that they're being flung out of this cannon, so that makes sense. The copper-colored greed desires the domination of 36 degrees is curious. Copper-colored greed, I mean, copper coloring immediately kind of makes me think of, like this sort of that orangey, maybe something that is a little bit closer to fire. I'm because I'm trying to think of exactly how copper looks, right? But the domination of 36 degrees is interesting. I wonder if that maybe speaks towards the degree of the shot that they're taking, right? That it's like this greed to fire, to the grasp at the heavens, and that degree is exactly like the degree of the shot that she's trying to fire them at, maybe. But it also, 360 degrees is on like all the way around you, right? So maybe it's a tenth of that for another significant reason. Of course, I like that Yorichi kind of leads them in this, gets them started here. We get, the cannon is kind of held in by these stakes that have this writing down the sides of them, or these markings at least. That I initially had to restart this whole episode because I read this as 72 pairs of leg ends. It's not leg ends. Like, oh yeah, I got a bunch of leg ends over there back in the shack. 72 pairs of them. So 72 pairs of legends, right? So what would that be? 144 legends, 13 pairs of horns. The 13 we know is significant kind of to the Savory Fate, right? There's the 13 court guards, the 13 captains, the 13 divisions. As far as the pairs of legends go, not quite so sure, but it's invoking these things of power, right? Horns, it's not, it's hard to tell what the horns refer to, because you could read that as horns being like the instrument, a horn, which, makes this loud noise, right? Or it could be like a horn is in the part of an animal, right? Or even a hollow. So it's unclear. But the right hand of the monkey grabbing the star, I think, is immediately evocative of, obviously, what's happening on page, where she tears off the wrapping around her head. It wraps around her arm and then catches fire. Obviously, is the immediate, thing. But I think this is a part of an incantation that speaks towards, like, that she is this sort of human figure, or this kind of anthrocentric figure, I suppose. This humanoid monkey, basically. This is this her? This is her left hand. So I guess it doesn't. Right? It's a left. Yeah, it's a left hand. Anyway, had to make sure for a second. Anyway, so it's not necessarily corresponding to her right hand, but it's evoking perhaps this idea of reaching out and grasping this flame, right, and then making that manifest. And there will be like shooting stars upon the sky. It all follows, and then she blasts this flaming fist into the ring that she has drawn. It shoots the flame around the ring and up the sides of the cannon. And then, embraced by the 25 wheels of the sun, the cradle of sand bleeds. So, I can't really speak towards the wheels of the sun. I don't know exactly what that might be referencing. If you do, please do let me know. But I think it's just trying to kind of, if we're thinking of the star imagery that we had before, it's kind of like grasping at the sun, the star itself, and then using its heat and its power to heat this cradle of sand, right? Which is what they need in order to fire this firework, right? The flower crane cannon launch method 2. So it certainly speaks to that, and then it's interesting that she brings up Cradle of Sand because, of course, Ganju, he can manipulate sand. So it's interesting that, of course, sand gets brought up there too. They get fired out, and we get that it is called Kagizaki. It's essentially the name of this spell. So I do like that it does have like a full-on name, which is pretty cool. But we also have this very long chant. And I think this is the longest chant that we've got in the series. We haven't really had that many. We got a few with Rukia. She had a few of the longer ones, but I think we had maybe some with Tensai. Is that his name? Tessai. I'm terrible with names. I try to be good about it because it's Bleach, and I do love this series, but I'm so bad with names. But yeah, Tessai, I believe that he had perhaps a few. But we haven't really gotten a lot otherwise. So it's neat that we get this, and the idea of being like a bound blossom, right? So it's fireworks are often referred to as like flowers. They also have a lot of flower imagery in Japan tied to them. So the idea that it's like this scattering of petals, it's this bound sort of bloom that's going to be fired into the sky makes sense. Of course, we get a pretty serious moment here from Kukaku, which is Ganju, to be safe. And we get her other arm wrapped up, similar to her dismembered one. Now, there's a lot of speculation if like maybe she lost her right arm doing some sort of a ritual like this, and I think that's valid. We do have this is a part 2. We know that she's been developing all these different techniques, and I have to wonder if she did perhaps, because this does, as we can see by the bandaging, go all the way up to where her stump is on her arm. And since the incantation specifically references her right arm, I have to wonder if she was doing this whenever she was younger, and for whatever reason, it cost her her right arm. And I think it's meant to be evocative in that way, that she's already lost her arm doing that, but she's going to continue to. Similarly, she's already lost a sibling, dealing with the Seirete, dealing with the Shinigami, and so she's risking that again. So I don't think this is necessarily a bad way to read that, and that this might be sort of revelatory in this moment, like, oh, that's maybe how she lost her other arm. Yeah, I think that's a valid reading. Obviously, we don't have confirmation as of yet as to why she's only got one arm. Though again, I think that's a fair inference to make. I know there's some people that are resistant to that kind of feel like it's too easy an answer. And to them I say, like, hey man, not everything has to be that complicated, you know? I do really like this shot of us seeing, this really scoped out shot of the cannonball getting fired up as they fly above the clouds. And I like that they just kind of like skeet right over and then start to fly. Like they take an immediate like 45-degree angle. Ganju, of course, has to read his own super long chant, and I will be talking into that one. But I do like that we get the shot of the different characters here, and that Yurichi's on top of the ball. They're all holding it. And just this nice clustering. Of course, Chad's too big to fit inside the panel yet again. But a lot of cool shots of Ganju there, and I like that they're all kind of cramped up, and Ganju's trying to read the roadmap for them, basically. Of course, that he could have explained this before, but I mean, dramatically, for tension's sake, it makes sense for it to be here, explained while they're all hurtling through the air, I suppose. But yeah, the idea that he has to handle the acceleration and the trajectory of the shot. Right? So it makes sense that if the previous evocation was all about just getting the direction and the angle right, as well as igniting the thing, then this is the kind of part that handles the trajectory and the precision of it through the air. And once again, we get the Shivas kind of having different elemental sides here, where it was Kukaku who was handling the firing of the thing, right? But it is Ganju that is handling its selling through the air, and I do like that sort of pairing as well. That we get the Shivas kind of handling these different kind of elemental processes, almost, right? And of course, Ichigo has to be reminded several times to bring down his power, but yeah, they essentially just have to all meet out their power, as he won't be able to monitor them, but that obviously proves to be a problem. I do like that we get like this kind of moment where we go around, we get to see everybody. It comes back to Ganju, he tells them to concentrate, and we get the shot kind of from his perspective. Again, Chad barely fitting in the panel. But I do like this. The shot of the team is really, really, I think, a good panel. And doing the all black fill to kind of sell the seriousness of that moment. Before this huge unravel. Yet again, he gets to unravel this like twice. Right? Because it happened, if we just go back a few pages, he flipped it open like right here. And then over here he gets to throw it across. But let's get into what his chant is, right? And I like that we do get constant reminders of them selling through the sky like this. And I typically don't find the I almost my brain almost glosses over the sound effects in manga so often that I don't even see them on page whenever I'm reading. Like I just have learned to completely ignore them. But I do like the way that the sound effect kind of spirals into where our text is and the spirals out. It gives this good sense of kind of careening through the sky, having this intense sort of emotion. Um, but yes, the fate of the three sparrows and the four dragons, enclosed on five sides, unable to return six re. I don't know exactly what the Rai is referring to. Um, if that's like a specific unit of measurement or something like that, you'd have to let me know. But the idea of like sparrows and dragons being that they have this fate and they're enclosed, um, and there's just kind of entreatment to help guide them there, right? And so it gives us this sense of like we are now in flight, but we're having difficulty, right? We have to navigate through this, and it calls out the winds of heaven, which makes sense. You're trying to kind of navigate through the winds, through the heavens. Now, orangutan, spoon, elm, cane, just seems like throwing out a bunch of anything. It's hard to imagine how each of these could be related, but I think that's kind of the point, is that it gets a little bit nonsense, is then they have to have a lot of back and forth. And I do like the way that this is structured. I also like that we do get Ichigo up here on the left anyway, too. But then we also get these backs and forth. Kind of great is that we do know that, like, if you keep in mind where everybody's positioned, right? So we have Ichigo next to Orihime, Ryu in the middle, and then Chad across. And we can actually kind of get that from the relative positioning of everybody here. I like that she's kind of looking over to her left where Ichigo would be. So it speaks towards like a spatial awareness of the paneling and like the way these characters are laid out that I do appreciate and is kind of significant. But I also like the way that with this panel goes, the page kind of goes down, that we do have Ichigo kind of focused further and further down the page, dragging us to the page to where he's like yelling down. And even Chad is looking down too, which, I mean, where else is he going to look? But that we have this gradual momentum down speaks also towards like their descent, their plunge, which I like. But I also like that this is structured where Ichigo's on the left side of the page, and it's like this back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and it kind of builds up a freneticism to the moment as things start to get out of hand, which of course you knew that they would. Thousand Ashes and Thousand Truths, the plan of the white clouds. Close to the moon, not stepping on the shadow of a scarlet. And then he says the Thousand Ashes and Thousand Truths line again. So, there's this, again, this evocation that's happening, and the idea, there's these like images of the heavens, of these different like truths. I don't, the ashes maybe tied to those fireworks and everything else maybe fits a little bit, but Close to the Moon certainly does, right? As they're scraping through the sky, not stepping on the shadow of Scarlet, and then, of course, he messes the line up, right? And then Ganju's just yelling at Ichigo, Ichigo's yelling back, and yeah, I like that here, as this kind of breaks out into this yelling fight, which of course it does. It's Ganju and Ichigo. Like what else did we expect going into this? They haven't, as much as they've gained mutual respect for each other, they're still kind of bickering like teenagers as they would. Which you have to remind yourself every now and then, they are teenagers, right? So it's almost like two brothers sort of giving each other a really hard time. I like that kind of dynamic between them. But I like that it's Orihime that is the one to kind of reprimand them, to kind of keep them on task. It's not something that you would expect from her, but like she bringing that up, or her bringing that up is I think a significant kind of moment for her. I like that it is kind of this moment that brings them in, and the whole time all this is happening, Chad is the one that's kind of looking around, because we're used to Orihime being maybe the more perceptive one, at least when it comes to Ichigo. But she tends to be the more perceptive and withdrawn one, and so we're getting a little bit more of Orihime stepping forward and taking the initiative, which she did before whenever they were escaping the cleanser, right? So I like that we get these kind of this new leaf that Orihime is starting to overturn here in this arc, that she's taking more of the initiative, that she's learned to kind of step out of her comfort zone of just, dealing with it and kind of biding herself. She still deals with that, as we saw with everything else, with Ichigo and not eating and all of that. But yeah, it's interesting. Now, of course, Chad is the one to point out this other threat that they have, that they are, of course, closing in on the Seirete. I do like that we get to see like the entire kind of shield around it, as well as that wall, as they close in. Kind of cool. Of course, nice enough. We duck in. I do like this shot where we get Kenpachi, and he's talking about how he looked around all night, and Yachiru is very tiny. There, I do like this little panel here of her just kind of like, oh hey, as the sound of it collapses down through the panel, which I do like. And already you can see how Kenpachi's hair is like already different in the way that it's being drawn from his like even his first 2 chapter appearances. So it's already gotten a little bit thicker, a little bit more voluminous. But yeah, I do like this shot of the orb just kind of coming in and everybody freaking out. Of course, Pikachu is not, but Byakuya, he doesn't care. Renji, of course, freaking out. I like that we get like, Renji's very reactive, like whoa, he's staggered by it. Byakuya doesn't care, he doesn't seem to have anything to say about it. And then we've got various other Shinigami just fleeing, but I do like that Aizen's kind of stopping to face it, but he's also trying to get Momo to help everybody out, to move everybody back, to get them into safety. So it shows like a sort of almost level-headedness from him, and a willingness to kind of try to protect others, even at his own cost. But I mean, he is a captain, right? And then they close in. I like that, it gets reiterated that since they're going to crash, they're going to just make the thing as hard as possible, which Ichigo sure can, right? So they make this huge crash into the Seirete, and that's where our chapter ends. Of course, it is revealed that it was none other than Don Kanonji who stopped the hollow that blew it up. And so we actually learn that it is Don Kanonji that is the one that is maybe helping keep hollows at bay while Ichigo is out of town, which explains why there's more of them. But yeah, interestingly enough, maybe he's become a little bit more powerful. Who knows? It's been a long time since I've had to do Don Kanonji or Karin's voice, so might be a little bit off with where I started with those. I remember I did his sort of like I should have gone back and watched the episode, but I didn't know that he was going to appear in the Somake until literally just this reading. But yeah, I completely forgot that this is where he shows up in these little in-betweens. Which again, these are unique to the collected volume. So I actually didn't get to read a lot of these whenever I was reading it weekly. So, only whenever I went back and read the collected volumes did I actually get that opportunity. So I don't remember these very well, and there are a lot of them that I might not have ever even seen. In fact, I know there are, because like the whole second half of the manga I never read the volumes for. So it'll be interesting to see how those continue to go. Because I was just reading it its weekly release, right? So I didn't get those little omake bits, but I like them. Anyway, as far as this chapter goes, we do finally land in the Seirete, right? Or at least hit the wall. Go ahead and hit that back wall and script right into it and get as hard as we can for it. But, we do get a little bit more insight into some of these characters. I mean, we obviously get confirmation Yorichi's a badass, which Yorichi's a talking cat. What else do you need? And is like leading their expedition to save Rukia and is best friends with Urahara Kisuke. Of course Yorichi's a badass. But we get a few other things from both Ganju and Kukaku, as well as building again. This is just this sort of transitionary movement. So you've had these two plots that have started to get into motion, separate from each other, right? We've had this conspiracy plot that just started going, and then we've got this rescue Rukia plot that's just started going, and now they are literally crashing into one another, right? And so we're going to see how those two intersect, and how Ichigo and his allies will come to kind of interact with this conspiracy against Rukia, or conspiracy around her execution. And let me know. Let me tell you, there's a reason why Bleach is as popular as it is. If you're not already familiar, it's good stuff. So look forward to it. As far as those of you that do know what's going on, let's get into spoilers. Let's talk about the foreshadowing, how this chapter connects to other chapters, and some of the other kind of connections that we can draw. So, I do like that Ichigo asks Yorichi to prove that they can use it, and of course Yorichi's perfect at it, because as we know, the Shihoin are actually very talented in using various tools from their family. So it makes sense that Yorichi, even more than other Shinigami, would be talented at doing this. So the fact that it is so easy as breathing makes sense, because Yorichi actually forgoes even use of her Zanpakuto to use these various tools. So Yorichi, who is a master of the Shunpo, right? All of that. It only makes sense, and I like that this is a little nod towards that early on. Not just towards, like, obviously Yorichi's technique is skilled here more than all the others because she's been at this for a while, but the fact that she is so talented at it, it makes sense even more so once you know a little bit more about the Shihoin clan. And Yorichi's own sensibilities as a Shinigami, which is pretty cool. It's neat that that's established this early, because it might seem kind of out of left field that Yorichi is suddenly a woman and is a ninja and all this other stuff. But obviously, if you're going to be going undercover, it only makes sense to take the cover of the guise of something like this animal, right? And clearly, other people It's interesting that Kukaku recognizes Yorichi, but I wonder, if Ichimaru Gen or somebody like Byakuya would recognize her as the cat, right? Because I don't think so. I think that's like the sort of thing that she used to kind of mask her identity and her presence and slip between both Soul Society and the human realm, kind of unnoticed. So yeah, kind of interesting stuff. Neat. And I wonder how much Yorichi gets away with being a cat sometimes. Anyway, we get this confirmation that, of course, Ganju has mastered this other chant, but obviously he hasn't mastered if he has to still read it off of the papers. But maybe that makes it more powerful. Maybe not, actually. Because it seems like the more powerful you get, the less that you have to do incantations. And incantations can power things up. Because I'm thinking about Aizen with the Black Coffin, right? The Koro Hitsugi. I think it is the Hado 99, right? And how he has a version of that where he does the full chant, but he's able to do it without even having to do the chant later on, much later in the manga too. And so you have to wonder if, because I know there's the whole thing with Bankai where once you achieve Bankai, you don't need to actually release your Shikai with its release command anymore. And I wonder if it's that sort of thing too, where once you actually truly have mastery, you don't have to actually do the full incant, or if it's the sort of thing where you do the full incantation that allows you to tap into more of that power, or maybe a little bit of both. I'm trying to honestly, I think it would make sense for it to be a little bit of both, but that you're powerful enough to summon forth your energy and to forge it into that shape, to make your Ryatsu into what you need more efficiently. But if you verbalize it, you're making its form more solidified, if that makes any sense. Because as we know, Ichibei created everything with names, right? And so evoking the name of the thing and having to do these spells is significant. Yeah, so I don't remember exactly how it works for Hado. Just that I know that, as we get more powerful Hado users, they don't have to do the invocations, the whole spell chants. Of course, we do get the cool stuff with the cannon. What I really like is that she uses this big brush to start the ceremony. And I did just mention old boy Ichibei. And so the idea of this brush, this ink being a medium for which she is going to use this spell and to kind of start all of that is really cool. It's something that it's easy to kind of forget about, but I think is significant. I like that Yurichi mentions, okay, like, let's not take any unnecessary risks. If anybody runs into a captain, just run away. It'll be fine. And every one of these characters runs into a captain and tries to fight them, right? Because if I'm remembering correctly, Chad goes up against Shunsui, gets bodied, right? Tries to fight him, gets tossed. He should have just had a drink. He should have just ran away. He should have explained the situation. Nope. Tries to blast him, gets just trashed. Yurichi, what am I saying? What is Yurichi even? That's the thing. I'm trying to remember what even happens to Yurichi. No, she trains Ichigo, right? Yeah, she ends up with Ichigo and becomes a hot lady. But Ganju and Ichigo sort of get split, right, until they reconnect. But Ganju runs into Byakuya at the at Rukia's tower, right? And he stops. He's about to kill Ganju there before Ichigo is able to show up, and Yurichi wraps up his sword, right? To stop Senzo Makura from scattering. So they encounter a captain there, and they're not just going to run away. Ichigo, as we know, runs into several captains, but I mean, first and foremost, he's going to run into Zaraki Kenpachi while he's on his own and have a massive fight there instead of running. As far as Uryu and Orihime go, they run into Mayuri and they fight him. So, and then after that, they're kind of out of the picture. So it's curious that we get this, if you run to a captain and flee immediately, this kind of like, that is basically telling us, hey, each of these characters is going to run into a captain, and then we're not going to have them run away. They're going to have to fight, right? But I think it's just setting the stakes and setting that as like a dangerous thing and setting that as something to warn us against so that we can later break of that warning, right? So we can remember, oh, shouldn't they be running away? No, they've got to fight. Isn't this cool? Like, this is the dangerous. So on and so forth. So it's neat, but that does literally happen to every one of these characters. Of course, I don't really have anything to speak towards with the big kind of incant. Obviously, I think the biggest one to speak towards as far as something that might refer to something else in the series is the right hand of the monkey grabbing the star. Thinking about Zabimaru's final kind of release, the Hio Zabimaru, right? I believe that's the one. Regardless, the Zabimaru are like, the King of the Jungle one, whatever the final one is in Thousand Year Blood War, being that huge kind of monkey arm. This reminds me of it, especially in the way that it can kind of do that huge explosion that it does and has this kind of power. So maybe, although I believe it is masking Renji's left arm and his right arm is the snake side. But nevertheless, maybe that's a little bit of what's going on there. I have no idea what the 13 pairs of horns and the 72 pairs of legends could be referring to. If you do, please let me know. Same thing with all the rest of this. Yeah, and I spoke a little bit towards, her worrying that she's going to lose Ganju, similar to how she lost Cayenne. And it is kind of a sad moment that, like, nevertheless, she's going to stick with it. I will say, I do think, because I don't think we ever get confirmation on how she lost her arm, and I do think it must have been similarly, doing something like the previous sort of technique that she used for this. I just think that there's too many things that point towards it, like the wrapping, especially, and this whole ceremony, kind of catching the arm on fire, going up to that part. Too much of it fits for it not to be the case, and I don't think we really have anything else that indicates that it could be something else. Like if it was a hollow attack or if it was a Shinigami or something, I think that would have been made explicit. I think it's maybe evocative and it's just left at that because it's fun to think about. But yeah. And then even, I like that she has this tattoo that ends kind of right here at the end of that and, is the tattoo for Sky. And I wonder if she got that tattoo after the fact so that, like, maybe this would be the arm that helps reach the sky. I'm not sure. Nevertheless, we do get that entire group running in. And I do like that the fact that, like, they are already kind of split in the way that they would become split. So, as we know, Orihime and Uryu get paired up. Ichigo and Ganju eventually find each other but are separate. And then Chad ends up on his own. Of course, we know that the part of that is that Chad ends up throwing everybody the different directions, right? To try to kind of keep them paired up, correct? We'll see that in the next chapter, I think. Yeah. Now, again, with this, they searched all night, but nobody's there. The idea of them getting that alarm early, and it being kind of a floss alarm, speaks again towards it being specifically, like, I almost feel like the whole point was that Aizen was planning on faking his death right here with this alarm, but with the Ryoka invasion, he didn't get the chance to, maybe? I don't know. Like, it's hard to say. And I don't remember if the manga ever makes it explicit, one way or another, why this first alarm went off kind of prematurely. It does feel like, yes, it is to get Ken out of cold water. Cold water? What am I saying? Hot water. Get in cold water. But yeah, it's a whole questionable sort of thing, right? Otherwise, not a lot going on here. We get this kind of last thing. And we also get the beginning of our Karaku Risers as Don Kanoji returns. So that is more kind of connection between Karin and him, as we need to make sure that we have people taking care of Karakura City while Ichigo and Co are out of commission. So yeah, that's it for this one. I do like this chapter. I'm a fan of it. It does have a few little connections like that, but if you saw something that I didn't, please let me know. As always, thank you for making it through the entirety of the video. Please give the video a like if you do enjoy this content and want to see more of it and see it spread. Share this stuff with any of your friends that are into Bleach, Let them know, because this is the best time ever to reread Bleach, especially as the anime is coming back. But if you're watching this even after the fact, after the anime is returned, good on you. Yeah, there's never a bad time to revisit Bleach. I mean, that's part of why I'm doing this, is it's a favorite series of mine, and I'm really delighting in finding how good it actually is, as an adult coming back to it. I very much was the target demographic whenever it came out. I was in middle school, I was a boy, and I was into anime and swords and stuff. So, it made sense. It was cool for me then. But it's still cool for me now. But, yeah, that's all I got for this one, folks. So, again, please do kind of help the video out in whatever way you can. And if you do want to help out in a different way, you can always support me on Patreon. On screen right now are all of my current patrons as of recording this video. And I want to extend a big thanks to everyone that is there. But no matter what, thank you. Thank you for all your support. It really does mean the world to me. So, as usual, this has been Karakura Gold, reminding you, spirits are forever with you. Stay gold.